Well, I just had a great discussion with Luke Scott, who is a fruitarian, and many people who watch this channel or listen to my Red Pill Buddhas podcast will sort of think, well, this is a carnivore channel, isn't it? Why have you had a fruitarian on? But I think it's really important to have really chilled discussions, and we did. There was no fighting, there was no arguing. There was nothing like that, and I think that Luke, because of what he does and being more into the spiritual side of things, and which I'm into as well, and he made some wonderful points. And will he stay fruitarian? Will he get to his ultimate goal of breatharianism? Who knows? Good luck to him if that's his path. And I think this is how we should be discussing, without these sort of fights between carnivores and vegans and whatever. And Luke's very open-minded, and I really enjoyed the chat. So I hope you enjoy it. And we need to realize that we're on the same side, really, everybody, and we are not each other's enemy. And if we could just sort of get the vegans and whatever off their moral high ground, so that they could discuss rationally, like Luke has done here beautifully, I think the world would be a much better place, and we'd get out of a lot of our troubles and sort out all these diet wars much quicker. So if you enjoyed this, maybe there's a donate button underneath if you'd like to donate to help me keep the podcast going. That would be I'd be very grateful for that. And please check out Ben Hunt and my Big Fat Challenge and Big Fat Tribe. The links will be below if you'd like to have any help with learning about ancestral disconnects and everything much beyond diet. And also check out our Red Pill Revolution, theredpillrevolution.com, for our Red Pill Revolution books and the upcoming Red Pill Food Revolution, which you can get in audiobook format, actually, a preview of it by joining the Big Fat Challenge. So check out those links below, and enjoy this chat with Luke, who is very chilled, and I enjoyed it a lot. So see you on the next episode.
Son of a lighthouse keeper, through cons and a wishing well, prayed for a love to call his own, a love to break the spell.
Welcome to the Red Pill Buddhas podcast, for red-pilled Buddhas everywhere. Revolutionary, free-thinking spiritual people who've woken up from the mainstream narrative on various levels, and I interview some of the most fascinating ones here. Please also visit thehumanunleashed.com for hundreds of hours of our video content on all areas of health, lifestyle, and much more, and the redpillrevolution.com for our 5-star reviewed book and subsequent publications in the Red Pill series as they come out. So welcome back, everybody, to my Red Pill Buddhas podcast, and I am honored today to have my friend Luke Scott on. And Luke and I met because we have a mutual friend in Darren Nesbitt, Daz Nez, who does the light paper and who I play drums for in the band, in the Daz band. And so we've met at festivals and gigs, and had a few friendly altercations about this and that. And it's cool to get him on, because there's so much more to Luke than, the discussions we've had about diet. So I thought that we better delve a bit more deeply into Luke. I just want to, just welcome and thank you for coming on, Luke. Just, I want to just read out this bio so that people get a better idea. So Luke sent me this one. It said, Luke Scott is a world-renowned spiritual mentor, award-winning international performer, investigative journalist, and television show host. Luke's the founder of FutureProof Events, teaching the essential life skills you need to be able to thrive as a sovereign being and live a life filled with love, joy, and connection. Growing up in a dysfunctional family, drugs and violence were a normal part of Luke's home and family life. Luke knew he didn't fit into this environment and knew he was destined for much greater things. Since his spiritual awakening, Luke has traveled the world mastering channeling, meditation, and DNA activation techniques to a very high level, and shares these techniques with his clients through one-on-one sessions, through workshops, retreats, and ceremonies. Luke's the founder of the revolutionary DNA activation, healing, and upgrading modality, quantum regression and integration therapy. This is one of the most powerful modalities in the world for creating lasting transformation and upgrades in your life and the lives of your clients. You can find out the details of the quantum regression level 1 certification at a link that will be below, along with Luke's other links. After being deleted from Facebook and Instagram for sharing too much truth, Luke lost over 20,000 followers and had his business accounts locked out overnight. This prompted Luke to start up with his own news channel on Telegram, where he cannot be censored, called the Truth Speakers Network. You can join the Truth Speakers Network and Luke's official site down below. I shall put all the links up. So anyway, with that out of the way, Luke, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You know, Daz was actually a big part of the FutureProof events. Me and Daz have done some interviews together, and similar to ourselves, Phil, we agree on 95 to 98 to 99% of things. And, you know, we have some differences too, which is always fun to like play with. And yeah, Daz, we created the first FutureProof event together because we wanted some place where people could come and learn the skills that you need to live in community and grow your own food and heal yourselves without hospitals, and, you know, educate your kids without all the brainwashing and indoctrination that happens in the traditional camps that we know about. And it's really blossomed from there. So yeah, I believe everything happens for a reason. There's this beautiful thing that happened in 2020 when my account got shut down, and it made us move. You know, it made us go, oh wow, we need to do something here. And so many people realized community, that's the thing. And yeah, I know we were just at a festival together, the Carry On Camping Festival, where it's a very similar kind of concept. You know, we're all trying to figure this out and see if we can make a go of living together or what that might look like. And yeah, I've really enjoyed our chats, Phil. I think you've got a lot of wisdom, and I love personally hearing from people who've like lived a full life. You've been on a real journey, and I'm just getting started. I like to think I'm like a little spiritual baby, you know. I'm just figuring stuff out. So
I think that
excited for where this goes.
That's a real healthy attitude, and I think I am as well. I mean, you know, the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know, eh? And
yeah.
You know, the universe is a very complicated place, and none of us know everything about it. So I think the most important thing is to not have censorship and just talk about these issues really openly, you know. But I'd love to know, first of all, how you came to this. You know, I mean, your youth sounds a little bit troubled. Mine was the other way, you know, too much wrapped in cotton wool and being sort of, you know, an only child and sent to public school and all of that, where all the evil elites went. And I hated that. I got out of it quickly. But both of those things can have an effect on you later in life. And, you know, how did you start on this, and what woke you up to looking down all these rabbit holes of how we've been lied to about almost everything?
Mental health was really my path. So I grew up in a family where there were a lot of mental health issues. My dad was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia when I was 5. And he used to tell me when I was a kid that he could talk to fire, and he could, you know, see things that other people couldn't see. And people thought he was troubled. He had a violent background, and he ended up getting institutionalized and then medicated for his whole life. And he died last year. He was in a, you know, assisted living facility, and he got dementia, and his brain just turned to mush. He was taking 40 tablets a day. You know, it's really crazy. And about 7 years ago now, 2016, I had this awakening experience. I realized I can talk to fire, I can talk to trees, I can communicate and see things that other people can't see, and that the human eye can only see less than 1% of the whole spectrum, you know, of what's going on around us. And started going on deep dives and learning from people who could see more than most people and hear more and you know, feel more. And I realized my dad was actually probably not schizophrenic, and he was actually just gifted, probably psychic. And if he had sat down with someone like me instead and said, you know, I can talk to fire, I would have got my notebook and said, you know, what's it saying? And taken notes.
Do you know
And
what? I remember seeing an article about it's something it still Googles. Do you know what a shaman sees in a mental asylum? A
yeah,
totally different thing. A lot of these people, I mean, some people are very troubled, but some people are experiencing awakenings. And in this day and age, we just shove it down with medications. But yeah, a lot of these states need a lot more respect than they're given in the Western medicine nonsense.
absolutely. I love studying tribes. I'm a bit of a history geek, and I like to go deep into how other cultures live. And in a tribe, he would have been one of the medicine people. He would have been one of the shamans. They would have been one of the wise ones probably, who could call on the elements and And it's just the way our society has been conditioned since the Rockefeller Foundation took over the medical system and made alternative medicine. It's like anyone who has these gifts, they're laughed at, mocked, ridiculed, and medicated. So yes, I've been on this real obvious path now. It's obvious when you look back, isn't it? Real obvious path that the establishment didn't serve me. The school system, I got expelled from school. I got sent to a psychiatric institution when I was 10 years old. That was a real troubling piece of my life, because the teachers and the doctors said I needed to be assessed. They said there's something wrong with me. I was violent. I was acting out. I was a 10-year-old boy whose dad was going through a lot, and they never helped me. They didn't try and get to the root of it. I had therapy for years and it didn't do anything, because one of the problems, Phil, is you can't be honest with your therapist. You can't tell them that you're thinking about, when your brother does this, you want to kill him. You can't say that. You can't tell them about the bad thoughts that you're having, because they'll put you back in the institution. So I've been on the shamanic path now for 7 years, learning from different shamans all over the world, and it's been wonderful to be able to be real with people. So a lot of what I do is I have the tough conversations that people aren't used to having, because people can just be real with me. And even if you tell me you've killed somebody or something, it's like, that's interesting. It's not going to make you a bad person, because we can always use our story to help people if we want to. There's ways we can take our experience. There's one guy on the speaker circuit, he's called Dwayne. He was in a gang, he killed someone, and when he was in prison, he had his big spiritual awakening. And now he goes into prisons and he helps other people to find peace in their hearts. But he can only do that because he killed someone. It all makes sense when you look backwards.
There are a number of people who've had awakenings in prison, aren't there? Was Ram Tzu, he's called. What was he? Wayne Lickerman? And he was in prison and had, I mean, he's got one of my very favorite sayings ever, which, I use quite often, which: bring me your dearest held beliefs, and with any luck, you'll leave without them. I love that he put up on one of his sort of satsang meetings or whatever one time. But yeah, experiences like that can really, illness, bereavement, all kinds of things can shock you out of your, huge amounts of acid tripping or whatever it is, can shock you out. The thing that I found fascinating about Buddha at the gas pump was, after I had an awakening like that in 2006, listening to the different stories of how it's happened to people and how it's not as uncommon as people think is utterly fascinating, isn't it? It can happen from, years of Zen practice, or it can happen from just walking across the road or stepping in a dog turd or something. Anything can trigger it. And is it even to do with that, or is it the time that it was supposed to happen? It's fascinating.
Yeah, I remember in your interview you talked about psychedelics and that role in your journey. So that was a huge part of my journey too. I had my first experience of unity consciousness when I was 18 years old. Me and some friends, we did LSD for the first time in an abandoned quarry, totally in nature, and we took quite a high dose and could literally see this web connecting me to everything, to the trees. I could talk to trees. I was only 18, didn't really know what to do with this. I could see the stars were all connected, and we call it the quantum field now, but I could literally see it with my eyes, and I could see sounds, and it was like, whoa, this is possible. And then it wasn't until 2016 I kind of remembered all of that and what's possible when we do tune into these states of higher consciousness. So yeah, it's been fun. And I went on a deep training path. I studied for years under different teachers and mentors for them to help me to see more and hear more and feel more. And I know you did the TM route, right? And transcendental meditation and the cities and like trying to levitate. It was funny story. I don't levitate. That's not one of my superpowers yet, but maybe so. I don't even think it would be that fun, to be honest.
To be honest, mate, it's I've got this picture of me at, you know, in late 80s, and I'm sitting in Lotus and I'm way off the ground. But to be, if you'd have seen a video of it, it's really not as spectacular as it seems. You know, it's the takeoff has been mastered, but really the hovering is, you know, takeoff and the landing is easy. How we get conned into these things, I think a lot of these things have been horrendously misinterpreted, and spirituality has in itself been co-opted by the elites to control us in many ways. You know, they have the beautiful core truths, but they're covered up with a load of nonsense, like everything else is in the world at the moment. Tell me more about some of these shamans and whatever that you studied with. That's fascinating. Where did you go?
Yeah, incredible things, Phil. You know, when there's a saying that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I've really found this to be the case with myself. So my awakening was in a meditation, completely sober. It was like my whole life flashed before my eyes, you know, like they say happens in near-death experiences. And I saw why all of these things in my life happened and how they were actually beneficial, but it wasn't intellectual, it was experiential. It was like it was real, and it happened so fast. And then I got this connection to this pure love energy, and it started to change everything. And I saw a vision. The vision was me in the future, but it felt real. Thousands of people, and someone in the audience said that they had cancer. And I just went down and I took their hand and we healed their cancer instantly. And then this consciousness said, is this a timeline you would like to align with? It was like, it's like a trailer for a movie, you know, it's the best trailer I'd ever seen. And I just said, yes. And so then all these teachers started coming who'd been doing it for like 20 years, 30 years, and they would teach me their things. And you can learn things so fast from people nowadays. You can go on a 3-day course or a 3-month program and learn like what takes people decades. So yeah, one of my teachers, he had a client who had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, told they were going to die. It was inoperable. And this is a great place to get to. And I know you've talked about this too. When the medical system says there's nothing else we can do, that's a good place, isn't it? Because then people go, well, I'm not going to die, so maybe I'll just do a little search, like, how can I heal? You know, and then you find these things. So yeah, he healed this person in 7 weeks using shamanic energy work, cleaning up their diet, working on the emotional reasons why the cancer was there. So this is like a big thing. If you have cancer, you have it for a reason. This is what we teach in quantum regression. It's like, get to the real root cause. Why is this thing showing up? And when you can clear it there, and it often is multidimensional, when you really clear the root, the thing often goes. It's trying to give you a message. So yeah, 7 weeks later, his client's completely cancer-free. And there's thousands of people who are doing this all over the world who have the ability to give these incredible things. So yeah, I did his program. It set me on a path, and I ended up living with a shaman for 18 months. That was a real education, Phil. It was plant medicines for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That was, I've done hundreds of these ceremonies of all different kinds, and been humbled, died lots of times, and it's ongoing always. It's just had a real life-changing ceremony like a month ago. Completely shattered my ego way I thought I was, and like a great humbling again. So I like when that happens, even though it's not necessarily pleasant.
No, these awakenings aren't always so pleasant, are they? They can be like getting stuck in a washing machine sometimes. They really can. You know, it's plant medicines are something I'm sort of half tempted with, but I did so much in such a short time, at around sort of 17, 18 years old, that it took me about 30 odd years to stabilize that. It was like, I think sometimes you have to do one of those journeys and then take some time to stabilize it and let it sort of sink in before you do the other one. But we were just hammering it like every day, and I'm up to sort of 900 mushrooms a day. And it was just not done with the right attitude. And although some incredible things came through, it was almost like hitting the hyperspace button, and you never know where you're going to end up, really, do you? you know,
Yeah,
so
I mean, there are great studies now, which are, you can go see in the mainstream media. They're using MDMA and psilocybin mushrooms to cure depression and anxiety and heal all sorts of things. And it's becoming more mainstream now. And I just went and got my hair cut a little while ago, and just talking to the guy, and people just open up to me. It's one of my superpowers. And he starts telling me how he's got depression, and him and his girlfriend, they're using MDMA to like treat it, just microdosing small amounts. So when you bring sacredness to these medicines, it is very different to when you overload on them. It's the same as lots of things in life, Phil's. Moderation is an interesting concept, isn't it? And sometimes we overindulge, and our body has its way of saying, no, you're taking the piss. Like, that's too much. It usually comes as an ache or a pain or an illness or a disease. It's like you've gone over you've gone overboard here. Just like calm down.
yeah, I class myself as one of the biggest idiots. I know exactly what to do, and then I do it for a while, and then I completely fuck up, and then it hits me. But it's funny because it just seems to be the path I take. At those times I seem to learn more. Most of the stuff I've learned has actually been through being really sick. And so it just seems to be my path. I mean, fortunately, I can get out of it quite quickly these days, but I look back and I go, oh, what did you do? You didn't do that again, did you? And sometimes we just sort of, and it's funny, as I get older, I don't get so much more wisdom in that. I still seem to have to chase down a path and go, I wonder if this is going to work. And sometimes they're brilliant, and sometimes you fall off a cliff, but I still haven't lost my enthusiasm. I still feel that, some of these paths are worth taking. So what is the kind of work that you're doing at the moment with people? I'm fascinated to hear that, because I was getting ready for gigs and sort of chasing around and talking to all sorts of people at festivals, and I didn't see much of your talk. So tell me the sort of approach that you're taking in these workshops and stuff, because it sounds really fascinating.
Yeah, it's really edgy, Phil. So I'm a certified hypnotherapist. I've studied all different kinds of modalities, and I've done hundreds of client sessions, and we're literally teaching people how they can heal from anything without needing hospitals, without needing pharmaceuticals. And so this is why I asked you before the start, like, what do you want me to not talk about on the podcast? Do you know there's something literally called the Cancer Act, where if you tell publicly that you can cure cancer, that they can try and arrest you. It's an act, it's not a law. So if you've gone down the common law route, you don't have to subscribe to it. But it's an interesting thing that they do. So yeah, we're literally teaching people how to heal like anything. So most of the people, like my background is my wife. My wife was had a really traumatic childhood, and all the worst things that can happen to a child, they happen to her. And she was institutionalized for a year, suicidal, and she learned that the conventional system didn't work for her. Diagnosed with PTSD and bipolar. And when I met her, she was still having like panic attacks, night terrors, wetting the bed. PTSD is a real challenging thing to be with. Then we learned about everything I'm just talking about, how we can actually not just get rid of symptoms, or they teach you coping mechanisms. They teach you, if you have an anxiety attack, how to cope with it. They don't say what is the root cause of the anxiety. And it's not that difficult. And this is challenging if you've never heard this before, everyone, but this is my truth. And I encourage you to go research this. This isn't just me. It's not that hard to actually cure trauma, like forever, like gone. A good hypnotherapist can do it in 30 minutes. Like, not just me, like any. And when you start bringing in the shamanic stuff too, and the energy work and the emotional stuff, things can literally clear really quickly. So my wife is completely free from PTSD now, completely free from bipolar, no panic attacks, no anything. And this is what we do. So I had a client recently. They were diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. They spent a year in an institution. They were medicated heavily. And I sat with her and we did one session, Phil. That was all we needed. She's not schizophrenic. She's not paranoid at all. She's a psychic and a medium. And we connected in, and she said, what's the problem? She says, well, when I'm alone at night, I can feel these things in the room with me, and they try and talk to me, and it's really scary. So you can see how that's like really close to what might be called schizophrenic. And there's a quote I really love, which is, the mystic the mystic thrives in the same water that the paranoid drowns in. You know, the mystic goes, wow, there's beings here and they want to talk to me. Like, what do they want to say? But when you don't know how to do that, because our tribe, our culture doesn't promote that. But if you lived in one of these tribes that works with medicines, you know, they would teach you how to talk to these things. And then, yeah, people with depression, they're told it's a lifelong thing, you know, and I think medical misdiagnosis is rife right now. Sometimes all people need to hear, Phil, is that it's not a lifelong diagnosis. You just need to hear that there is a path. I don't even have to show them the path. I do have a path. Quantum regression is the most powerful thing I've learned how to do it. But if someone's depressed, so one of our family members is a doctor, she's a GP, and we hear stories about all the things that happen. You know, someone came to them and they broke up with their boyfriend, teenager, broke up with their boyfriend. And the doctor just gave them antidepressants straight away. No trying to heal the trauma, no trying to help them navigate a breakthrough. That person was on the pills for 3 years and now she's scared to come off them. And she was never depressed. You know, she just needed someone to help her through a breakup. So we believe that we can really help bring peace to a lot of people. This is what I have in my heart, is peace. And I think it's much needed medicine. So been given this opportunity, Phil, to say things most people are scared to say. And, you know, telling people they don't need pharmaceuticals as much as they've been told. You know, I think there is a place for medical interventions. I think there's absolutely a place. If I break my leg, I'm going to go to the A&E, not to a shaman. But if I'm having a psychotic episode, I'm going to go to a shaman, not to an A&E.
Spot on. I love that. Yeah, exactly. You know, people say to me, you know, when you start criticizing the jabs and all that, and they say, well, you know, you wait until you need the health system. Yeah, but you've got to have discrimination about what they can do and what they can't do. If you're having serious anaphylactic shock or you crashed your motorbike into a lamppost, then absolutely go to them. They can help you out. But you've got to watch them. You've got to watch them with what they throw into you. I mean, so many. You mentioned, you know, about your dad, and I'm sorry to hear that. It's a very common story. You know, the medical system definitely killed my dad, and they killed my mum. But in the end, she would have gone anyway, and she was ready to go, and she was like 95. So, you know, that wasn't so bad. But my dad was absolutely fine before he got in the clutches. I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know what to tell them back then. It was 2003. And, you know, when I see the amount of people that you can, you know, you and I probably both have clients that come off massive amounts of medication. And it's funny, even in the spiritual world, as we were saying, that so many people have swallowed all of this and all of the nonsense that's been pushed on us in the last few years. And even in the TM movement, Maharishi himself said the next war will be against the pharmaceutical companies. And they still don't seem to have twigged it. You know, even in my daughter's school, that is a Maharishi school, they're sort of pushing the jabs and muzzling and all that sort of thing. Obviously, my daughter has nothing to do with it, but it is amazing how many of the spiritual people have swallowed all of that sort of thing just out of fear. I mean, you mentioned about people having instant healings from cancer and whatever, and definitely I'm onto that. There's a lovely story, Anita Morjani's story. She was also on board with the gas pump, you know, and you look like you've heard about it, but you know,
she's fantastic. Yeah,
dying to be me. And I loved it when, you know, Rick Archer did ask her, what do you think is at the root of this cancer epidemic? And she said, fear of cancer. And I think that's spot on, because it is basically a healing process. Our body doesn't work against us, and you've just got to look at the root causes, which are in many different areas. And if people don't sort out the emotional side, I find it's very difficult for them to heal, even with diet and lifestyle. So, yeah, I'm totally with you on that. You know, I'd love to ask you, though, because, you know, you and I have sort of butted heads a little bit about the carnivore fruitarian thing. And I think that's cool, because we've never had any sort of serious argument about it. You're very chilled about it. I think you thought at the last festival I wasn't very chilled about it. I wasn't. I'm just passionate. I'm still open to everything, and that people should do exactly what they want. But I did want to ask you a few questions about it, particularly since you've been with shamans and stuff. Have you been with them? Have you been with them in the Amazon or anything? And
We're really blessed right now, Phil. They come to us, but I have been in Mexico. So we have land in Mexico. We're building a community out there. We've got 30 families. We're trying to live together. So I traveled all around Mexico, and you sit with tribes and they know their ancestry back 5,000 years. And they keep that, and they try and do the ceremonies the same way they think their ancestors did 5,000 years. And it's very, very interesting. But yeah, I'm a always student. I'm constantly learning new things, and yeah, people come from, like, I've sat with Colombian shaman from Peru, from France, from Poland, from all different places, Russia, they come to us now. And one of my friends here in Manchester, he brings in like the Honeyquin tribe. They come here. It's really fascinating. It's a great time.
yeah, marvelous. I mean, I was, because it reminded me of a story, because I'd love to know how you came to the sort of the fruitarian kind of thing, because I remember this story of a vegan once who went out to the Amazon to live with the tribes. And I mean, I've had Mary Ruddick on my podcast, who's lived with tribes all over the world and has talked about their diets and whatever. And it was funny because this story amused me, because she went out there and she told them that she was vegan, in this tribe, and they thought it was hilarious. And then in the end of it, she realized that they had such a connection to nature and to the animals that they took, only the animals that they needed. There's nothing like the horrific factory farming out there that we both absolutely totally agree with, by the way, or rather agree that we don't agree with it, right? And she ended up sort of eating the ancestral diet and realizing that there wasn't anything that harmful about it. What is it about the fruitarian thing that's got you, that you think is applicable these days? And go for it.
You said something brilliant to me the other day in our private conversation, Phil. He said, I can only eat meat. And if they try and take our meat away, if there's this agenda to like take these animals away, I'm going to starve, And that was fascinating to me, because that's like how I feel. And it's a different way of coming to it. So I used to be a bodybuilder, like used to eat 2 chickens a day, 200 grams of protein every day, steaks and eggs and all of everything you could. Arnold Schwarzenegger taught me, all these magic and tricks, and it was cool. And I got muscly and strong, and I wasn't conscious then. I never even questioned, where does my food come from? It wasn't a question. You're not taught to think that. Then I had this awakening in 2016, and I became so sensitive to the energy of everything, the energy of people, the energy of water. I used to drink tap water. Now, tap water is like repulsive to me. As soon as I put it in my mouth, I can taste this is poison. This isn't for me. It's the same with any kind of like fizzy drink now, or anything, it's like you can taste it's poisonous when you become sensitive to it. So steak was my favorite food and beer was my favorite drink pre-awakening. And I started to notice when I would eat the steak, it still tasted nice, but I would get really upset, even to the point sometimes I'd be crying. And I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. I'm a big physics geek. I love quantum mechanics. I really go deep into it. And I learned this thing, which was that energy is never created or destroyed. It's only transferred. They teach you that in basic high school physics, right? So for me, what I noticed was, if I'm eating food that has negative energy and I consume that negative energy, it has to be processed somehow. And so I would go to the supermarket and I would like feel the meat, and it just felt so sad, because my dad was a butcher. My mum and dad used to work in a chicken factory. And those animals that are in the slaughterhouses, a lot of fear, a lot of scared, the cows get PTSD because their kids are taken away. It's a horrible, the whole industrial factory farming is a mess, right? I couldn't find any meat that felt good. And I would even hold an egg, Phil. And if you've ever tried this, if you've never tried this, go and try it. Hold an egg and see if the egg feels happy. Because if that chicken's been unhappy its whole life, full of suffering, how can the egg have happy energy? It can't. And so if I consume that suffering, I'm struggling. So I went to one of the fanciest steak restaurants in London. I used to live in London, and I ordered the fanciest steak and I ate it. And it was just like, can't do this to me. It's the same as alcohol. I've been sober 6 years now. Just, it doesn't feel good in my body. And so I went on a path to like figure it out. I became pescatarian for a while, and then that was okay. But then it wasn't, because I connected to fish. I do meditations, and like I connected to the energy of the fish. And I'm sure you've seen how it is on the fish tankers. You know, they're like, they suffocate, they die, they're flailing around. And it's horrible, the energy that's then in this fish. And so then I became vegan, and that felt all right. But only like whole foods. It has to feel alive. The food has to feel alive. But then I had this this thing, Phil, and it's so funny because I'm so sensitive. I have plants here. I have some beautiful flowers, some orchids that I've raised for the longest time. If they're thirsty, they speak to me and they tell me they need water. Like, I communicate with plants and animals. I do animal healing. You can talk to anything. Now, I would go and I would take a celery and I would rip its head off and I would eat it. I would never do that to this houseplant in a million years. I would never go and rip the head off this houseplant, but I was doing that. The celery don't want to die. The oats don't want to die. Carrots, if you pull them from the ground, they die. It ends their reproductive cycle. And I got shown a vision. I get shown these visions, and it said the only thing in the earth that actually wants to be eaten are fruits. It's a part of the fruit's reproductive cycle to be eaten. And when I connect to a fruit, if it's ripe and it's picked beautifully, and like I've been in amazing farms where you can just pick it straight from the tree, it feels alive, it feels beautiful. When I eat it, I feel great. I've eaten fruit all day today, I feel amazing. And if for me to put some energy in my body that was not like happy, I would have to process that. So one of the things you taught me, which was beautiful, by the way, Phil, at a festival last year, was about anti-nutrients. And I never researched that before you told me about it, but I just knew plants don't want to be eaten. Like, it just makes sense. They're going to have some kind of self-defense mechanism, right, to stop predators from eating them. So then I learned about oxalates and all different things and started to go into it. And I'm like, this is why we're not supposed to eat plants, right? We're not, like, vegetables don't want to be eaten. If we have to cook it, I question it. You know, no other animal in the world cooks food. And so it's like, it's a path, Phil. So one of the things I would love to hear from you, because I love animals. Like, there's no amount of hunger I could personally get to where I would ever kill an animal. Like, I just wouldn't. And I would love to hear from you, because I know you said some challenging things which triggered me around the fruitarian. You said you are going to get sick, like this is going to happen to you, and it was very definite, right? But my teachers are breatharians, they're fruitarian bodybuilders. They've been on this path for like 20, 30 years, and they're thriving and healthy. And so I'd love for us to find a way, because I'm like you. You say you can only eat meat. I think I can only eat fruit. So like, there has to be a way I can thrive. I am thriving. There has to be a way you can thrive. And somewhere in that we can live together in some kind of harmony. As long as I don't have to watch you kill an animal. Like, if we were in the same room together and there was a dog there and you got hungry and you just went and killed the dog, I don't know if I could be friends anymore. And if that was a lamb, like, I don't think I could be friends anymore. That would be really difficult for me to be. And I do have friends who are hunters, and they go and they get the game and they harvest the whole animal, you know, and they use every part of the animal, and they seem to have that respect that you talked about for it, you know, which yeah, there's different ways to be, and I don't want you to be my way, and I don't want you to try and convince me to be your way. It's like, how can we all support each other? Because there's lots of different ways to be.
Absolutely, and I really take your point about the, you know, I think crop farming is horrific. It kills a hell of a lot of animals. If vegans are eating farmed crops, they have in billions of deaths on their hands, without a doubt. And I believe that your way of eating and my way of eating, which is grass-fed beef and lamb, are the best for the environment and kill the fewest animals. But having said that, okay, you just eat the fruit. I wonder if killing animals and eating them is evil. I think the suffering that goes on and all of that sort of things, why I don't eat chickens. And then the UK, if you can feel the suffering in the eggs, absolutely. You know, pigs and chickens, they're fed the wrong food, they're kept in horrific circumstances. So I think, you know, to go with the beef, grass-fed beef and lamb, if you're going to eat it, then that's the way to go. So having established that, we've probably got the two diets that kill the fewest animals anyway. But if killing and eating is so evil, why has nature created so many carnivore animals? What's going on there? Because we do have a digestive system very similar to a carnivore, and we have eaten fruit forever, and we have eaten meat forever. You know, and we didn't have any of these sicknesses. Plus one other little question in there tying in with the shamanism. To say that we can only get the higher state of consciousness, by the way, I wasn't saying you are definitely going to get ill. What I was saying is, in my experience, I see people going fruitarian, feeling great, and then they come to me with a lot of issues. So I do have some worries about it. But if with the shamans and stuff like that, I mean, all of these people, all of our ancestors, all of them ate meat, and they have great respect for it, and they take it when they need it. They don't do any factory farming, but they take it, they have great respect for it. Is that to say that none of these people could have been in a higher state of consciousness? I find that strangely disrespectful, because I used to think like that. And then I thought about it and I thought, hang on a minute, you know. So, you know, how about the carnivore animals? Is that evil? And our ancestors always eating it?
So evil is a word that you've brought into the conversation. I don't think I used that word at all. I don't even believe in that as a concept. And
no, I'm actually with you on that, I have to say, but it's just I get a lot of vegans who use that word to describe me and my kind. So yeah.
This is one of the things that's a bit different with me to other like vegans and people promoting this. Like, I'm with you. I don't think crop farming is good at all. I think it's horrific. Monocropping is like disgraceful, you know, ruins the planet, and it's like so horrible for all the animals. And so yeah, it's turns places into barren deserts, you know. It's really scary, especially when they start using pesticides. And so yeah, I promote organic, fruitarian if possible, or breatharian. And I just literally interviewed someone today. So I have my own podcast called Leading Edge Conversations, and I interview people who are living on the leading edge of consciousness. So I interviewed someone today. He's called Michael Feely. He's a beautiful historian, and he goes in all these secret libraries that most people don't get access to, and he knows Hebrew, and, you know, he like goes and finds the real translations. And I put this to him today, and I said, my research shows that our ancestors used to live hundreds of years, some of them thousands. Like, that's what it says in the Bible, you know, if you believe the Bible. And he studies ancient Egypt and ancient Sumeria, and I'm like, how did they do that? And he said a lot of the people in those cultures used to be breatharian. Like, that is the actual history. But we've been given this twisted, like tainted version of history, which is his story, right? It's not necessarily factual. And I played a game with him because I do believe, like, my experience, and I'm a hypnotherapist, right? So I take people into hypnotherapy. I've got a book here called Life Between Lives by an amazing teacher called Michael Newton. And when you get people in this super conscious state, and there's a book I've got here as well called Easy Journey to Other Planets. This is like the Vedic version of it. The basic idea is what you find, what I found through my own practices. This is a game that we live in. This is literally a game. And like, when I just did this with a client the other day, we go to their place before they incarnated here. We go and you see their soul and why they chose to be here and what they wanted to experience. And it's kind of like a movie. You get given a script, and it's like, you're going to go play this role of Phil, right? And you're going to go and write all these books about veganism, and then you're going to become carnivore, and it's going to turn your whole life upside down, and you're going to have this arthritis, and you're going to have to heal from it. And, you know, all of the stuff that you did. And you thought, yeah, that sounds fucking brilliant. I'll go and do that. That sounds like a great movie. And, you know, Michael does this with thousands of people. He has a school called Life Between Lives. You can go and get a reading from anyone. And this is like proven now throughout all of those sessions that this world is a simulation. It is a game. That's what most of the people who I follow believe. So then it starts to become a bit more playful. Like, when you realize you are Neo in the Matrix movie, like, what's possible? And they say, like, do you think that's air you're breathing? Right? It's like, Do you need to eat? And so I've been on this breatharian path now for 5 years. I've had great teachers, and one of my teachers, he just does not eat. He has transcended the need for food and water. I was out in Mexico training with him, and there are many of these people, and they literally get their energy from the earth, from the sun. And this is one of the things I think a lot of people struggle with, Phil. They don't know how to tap into this etheric energy source that is all around us, that ancient civilizations knew about. There's a guy called David Avocado Wolf. He's in Egypt right now, and he's breaking into all of these tombs that people aren't supposed to go in, and he's taking pictures of the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, and they have helicopters in the hieroglyphs, they have spaceships, they have these Tesla coil technologies. Like, our ancestors were not peasants with pitchforks, you know. The pyramids weren't built by people rolling along big stone blocks on logs like we're taught. They had the technologies that we had. They could heal with frequencies. They could cut rock with sound and build these pyramids, you know, however you think they were built. It's definitely not with hammers and chisels, right? And so these tribes who live in the jungle and they do all these different things, right? There's so many different ways that we can all be. And if you only go back 5,000 years, that's not that far. Michael Feely, he's dated the Great Pyramid, I believe he said today. It's actually 73,000 years old, is what he believes in his version of the movie, this game that we live in. So I'm really open, Phil, to our ancestors being breatharian, that being a part of our history. And what my teacher has been teaching for a long time, he believes that by 2026, humans are evolving from a carbon being into a more crystalline being, and we're able to now receive light from the cosmos. And this is what my breatharian teacher literally does. He says, when I get hungry, I breathe in light and I'm not hungry anymore. And he wasn't born a Buddha or anything. He's not now. He was a military guy, and he just said, the more I kept meditating, the more I kept breathing in the light, the less food I wanted. And eventually I didn't need food at all. And you know, because you've accessed ketosis, right? So you know we have these technologies in our body that we're not taught, we're not given the instruction manual. When you become breatharian, it unlocks these different technologies. Like, you don't need to drink water because your body gets the water it needs from the air. You don't need to eat food because you get the energy from the earth and the sun. And your friend Graham, who wrote your book, I've actually got your book right here. Got your book right here, The Red Pill Revolution. Everyone, go check it out. Absolutely brilliant. Graham Norbury, we had a chat about this when we were at a festival recently, and he says, yeah, when the sun shines on you, that infrared goes into your organs and it literally gives you energy. And he said, yeah, if I get enough sunlight, I don't even get hungry. He's like, we all have this, you know, different ways. So for me, Phil, it's like, if I don't have to kill animals, if I don't have to hurt a plant, and I can still thrive, I want to find that way.
Cool, but I've also heard just, you know, I'm with you on all of that. I do believe that breatharianism is absolutely possible. I think you have to be in a pretty damn good state of consciousness for it to happen, preferably with access to the sun and low deuterium water source if you're still drinking water on your way there, all that sort of thing. I think that the thing for me is that, well, actually another thing you mentioned was choosing our path before we come here, you know, and I've also heard that prey animals come here with the intention of being killed because they feel that that is their path in the cycle of nature and that they're happy with it. Of course, they have fear. I mean, we're not talking about factory farming here and all the horrendous things that go on there and the transportation and God knows what. Mm-hmm. But say there's a herd of animals, why would they be frightened and run away if they're chosen to die that way? Well, if there's a predator that's running after them, they want to take the weakest ones, and that's how nature selects. And so, you know, while they can still run, they're going to still live. But do they have a tremendous fear of death? I don't believe they do. And also, you know, the horrific deaths that they do experience in the wild, which is worse than we give to them, where they're sort of ripped apart and eaten alive. You can see a certain peace that comes over them at a certain point and a resignation. And if they get away, quite often animals will shake violently. Yeah, and it's almost like bang, they've got rid of that stress and that trauma, which we don't. We hold on to it because we're such stupid talking monkeys, as Jack Cruz puts it, you know. And so we've forgotten all these ways. But you know, we are on the meat thing. I think that people, you know, who can do breatharianism, fantastic. But a lot of people jump into it. If you're very educated in it, I'm going to be very interested to see how you get on with that, you know, in future years. It's going to be great. And that's not me being pessimistic, because I think
Phil,
you're
it was
probably on a good track.
it was not a straight line. You know, I had a big healing crisis when I stopped eating meat. I did. It was really challenging for me, because you're going against all of this programming, and the beliefs are like so deep, you know. And I was around 13.5 stone, like muscular before I had my awakening. And when I stopped eating meat, I just kept losing weight and losing weight and losing weight. And I ended up getting to like 10 stone. And I looked really unwell. I looked like skeleton almost, you know. And I'm like, whoa, I'm getting all these energy healings done on myself. And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? I'm eating healthily. I should be healthy, but I feel awful. One of the things I have, and this is what we teach in the quantum regression, is you can talk to your body. You can talk. If you've got a backache, you can talk to it. You know, whatever it is, like speak to the disease, like see why it's here, connect to it. So I tuned into my body and I'm like, what's going on? It told me all the muscle that I had made from the animals I'd consumed. This is the words that I got in the channeling. It said it was low vibration muscle. It said you can't ascend to the levels you're going to go to while you've got that low vibration muscle on your body. It said you literally had to lose all that muscle that was made from dead animals and animal products, and then you'll rebuild it. And straight after that, like not any period of time after, but straight after I got that awareness, I put the weight back on. Now I'm strong again. I'm around 12 stone. I'm muscly. I'm like healthy, you know. And it was this thing I'm talking about again. It's like the vibration of your muscle tissue. It's like the more light we bring in, it's really difficult to hold that if you've got this dense, heavy, suffering, death, fear energy in your beingness. But it is very grounding, Phil. Sometimes when I'm on the pure fruit diet and my raw vegan friends, it's like it is uncomfortable to be in your body sometimes, because your vibration is really high. And if I eat a heavy meal, I do get more grounded. I do. And I know some friends, they literally say, I'm too high, I'm going to go eat some fish. And they do, and they feel more grounded, because that energy like brings them back down. And so it's that's, I'm not saying that they're good or bad or right or wrong, but they have not found a way to like be able to exist in that vibrational state. So they're, instead of doing breath work or going for a ceremony or jumping in the ocean or whatever they could do, they're killing an animal to eat just so they can be grounded. And they literally say, I don't want to eat the animals, but it grounds me. And so I think if this is a game, if anyone believes that, I've got a real deep piece on this, which is not diet related. But yeah, I totally agree with you. The animals are here. They when I connect to them and I say, why would you be here? And they say, we're here to teach humans about compassion. We're here to teach you about living. Like, have you ever seen the Avatar movie? You know, with the blue aliens, right? When they kill some animal, they say a prayer to it. You know, it's not a fun thing for them. Right? They don't do it for joy or for pleasure. They do it for necessity. And I think there's something really beautiful the animals are here to teach us. And I think the way that you maybe do it, or like my friend who's a hunter, he says he tries to shoot the deer with a clean shot, so it has no fear in its body. And he harvests the whole thing. And this is multiple friends who are hunters. I sit with people who are different, right? It's good. It's healthy, you know. And he believes that what he's doing is good and kind. And the lions who chase the herd, they do get rid of the sick ones. They get rid of the weak ones. It's how nature thrives and stops overpopulation. You know, it's necessary. But breeding 80 billion land animals by artificial insemination and all the horrible things that they do, and keeping them in pens their whole life, that is completely different to lions going and getting the weak gazelle. Totally different.
I totally agree. But I mean, where I see about the vegans, they're like, well, let's just go and eat another completely different diet and not have anything to do with meat. And then they might occasionally go down to some slaughterhouse and lie in front of a lorry and whatever. But the people who I see who are really doing some good about getting rid of factory farming are the carnivores, who are going out there and really supporting their local farmers, making sure they're treated really well, making sure that they're dispatched in a very humane way, and they're eating that food, which, you see, I found, I have a friend, Chris Art, he's been on the podcast, he's funny, Australian guy, and he grew up in the whole Muktananda thing. His parents were into all this sort of spirituality and stuff, and he's become very jaded about it. And he said to me, he said, I wonder, these gurus, he said, are half of them actually enlightened, or are they mentally ill? I thought that was hilarious, because there are times when I've been too far into the sort of vegan and fruitarian thing, because I have tried it myself, where I felt too spaced out. And then, you think, right, you're in a higher state. And to me, I mean, I was very sick when I went into it. I didn't last long on it. And then I came to Carnivore, and I felt that it rebuilt me. But I did feel that I had this sort of intuition that I see it in the TM people. Oh, we're all sort of high on all of this, and we're all, and they're I mean, they're not eating like you. They're eating Southern Indian cooked vegetarian diet in the north of England. So they're all getting cancer, and they're all dying of autoimmunity and stuff. And so I say, well, was it the meat? You don't eat any. And
well, the rice is so bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
My
Yeah.
friend's a farmer in Malaysia,
Totally.
and he's like, the rice we eat here, it's not the same as the rice you eat. It's like, I wouldn't even eat your English rice. Like, there's no way. Like, that is not a food, and it has cyanide in it. And it's like,
yeah, it does.
on the NHS website, it says, do not give rice milk to babies because it will kill them. It literally has this high cyanide content, and it's crazy when I see people who are spiritually connected eating rice. They just have no idea. It's not food.
Well, it's the arsenic thing, isn't it, as well in there? But I mean, if I found, I have a podcast that before this one that was called Carnivore and Beyond, and it was really looking for spiritual people who had got into trouble with their health, their physical health, mental health, all sorts. Even had a spiritual teacher who got his awakening back. I've had 2 or 3 actually as clients by dropping all plants from the diet. And to me, how it felt was I still retained that higher sort of awareness, but I also got grounded as well. You say it's grounding, because I think, is the higher awareness really, or let's put it in terms of chakras, like, are those higher chakras really more important than the lower chakras? I don't think so. I think they should all be engaged, because otherwise, I mean, there are times like these. It's like in the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it, where Krishna's in the chariot with Arjuna. He doesn't really want to fight. And Krishna goes, every now and again, you've got to go and fuck some people up, just get on with it, established in being, then take action. And I find that I'm much more effective with that. And I can think on more levels now, that I cut the plants out and I don't have the toxicity from the plants, because admittedly, most of my plant-based times was cooked, and whatever. And so I felt that destroyed me. And going back to a meat-based diet actually really helped not only my consciousness, not only my physical well-being, but my emotional well-being and my consciousness, to be able to exist on all those different levels and not be very, very oversensitive like a lot of the TM meditators are. And, also to be able to be really open to all sorts of other things, at a like connection with nature, this beautiful connection with nature, an understanding of it, that it's not that evil.
Yeah, I don't think it's evil. A snake is not evil, right? But it eats animals. I used to have pet snakes. We used to feed it rats. It was like,
yeah, we've got a boa constrictor here and a corn snake. Yeah.
Right. So I know that snake's not going to eat celery, right? It's not what it's going to do. It's not evil. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It just is. And this is one of the things that, for me, anyone who feels genuinely really good, like doing what they're doing, like, keep doing it, because most people on the planet, they don't feel really good, Phil. Most people on the planet are not thriving. And this is what FutureProof Events is about. Let's get you to thrive, right? Whatever you need to do that. And this community we're building out in Mexico, one of the families, they want to keep chickens, right? And there's jaguars in the jungle where we're building in Mexico. So if you want to keep chickens, you have to keep them in a cage. Like, there's no other option, or the jaguars will eat them. And another one of the guys wants to keep a fish farm. Now, what's a fish farm? A fish farm is basically like a cesspool with too many fish in it. because you have to breed them for the expense reasons, and you have to put antibiotics in there because the fish get so sick because, you know, it's just not natural. And I'm going to have to be there. And when I see an animal in a cage, it really hurts my heart. That's like, when I see a person in a cage, it really hurts my heart, you know? And there are human farms on this planet, Phil. I'm sure you've been down that human trafficking piece, right? There are literal farms. So there's this saying that as above, so below, as within, so without. The people who have been ruling this planet for however long, they literally see us like cattle, right? They know when we're born, they get our birth certificate and they can make a certain amount of money from us over the course of our lifetime until we all learn about sovereignty and we change it, you know? Now, they don't care if we live or die. They pump us with all the same antibiotics. And do you know they're giving mRNA jabs now to livestock, which is just nuts, you know? How can you even know if you're going to eat in a restaurant, they're going to use the cheapest meat stuck together with meat glue? Do you know about that? You think you're having a sirloin steak, but it's glued together with meat glue.
Oh yeah, yeah. All the things they
Great
do. Yeah.
craziness, right? So here's my spiritual take on it. And this is what I was shown. This is not me preaching from any particular high place, right? It said, if humans think it's okay to imprison billions of animals and trillions of fish die, it's like 2 trillion sea creatures every year, how can they complain when someone enslaves them? It's like, if you're promoting freedom, it has to be freedom for all beings. And this is one of the core tenets, Loka samasta sukhinu bhavantu, you know, may all the beings in all the worlds be happy and at peace. So this is kind of how I see it. I'm like, those tribes that your friend talks about, they don't imprison the animals, right? They don't force rape them. They don't inject them with all these horrible things. They let them live a life. And when it's time, they go and they hunt the thing. And that's different. So different to how we are. And even if you do raise grass-fed, like cows, the animals we're raising now, and it's the same with the vegetables, Phil. You talked about how you lived on vegetables for a while. They're not real vegetables. If you study Dr. Sebi's work, these are like frankenfoods, you know? If you go back 100 years, pre-Rockefeller Foundation and all of that stuff, there was not all these varieties of these genetically modified, tweaked vegetables.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're all grown off some brassica plant and they're all very toxic.
It's
told that leafy greens are the most healthy thing there is. And it's
crazy. Your curly kale and your broccoli and your cauliflower, like, it's not food. So I followed Dr. Sebi's advice for a while and I found it really beneficial, but he does promote grains and different things. And it didn't make sense to me. How can our ancestors have cooked food pre-fire? Like, it didn't make any sense. So how can I, and I think you mentioned this, how can I live as close to nature as possible? Like, what's the most natural way that I can live? I kind of like that. So I follow this other doctor called Arnold Ehret, the mucusless diet system, and I found that to be really fascinating too. And I've just been studying, there's another guy called Dr. Armin Ra, and he's like, looks like a gorilla, you know, he only eats 1,400 calories a day and he's been doing it for 20 odd years. And I'm like, I get inspired by these people. And here's the main thing, Phil, like, full circle it all around. I believe, because of what I do for my work, whatever you believe, like truly believe in your heart, is true. Like, if you believe you can levitate, you can, like, absolutely. But you have to believe it. It has to be real. Like, you can't just hope. Right? It has to be a knowing. Like, they talk about turning water into wine. You can't hope it turns to wine. You have to know it will. Knowing is like the level of mastery, right? And there's a teacher called Abraham Hicks, and they say you can heal from anything. They say, well, why don't amputees grow an arm back? They say, well, no one believes that they can. So if you come and do a raw vegan diet, but you don't actually believe it's healthy for you, like somewhere in your subconscious, you've still got that thing, like because of the societal programming, it will be unhealthy for you. And because I believe fruits are healthy and breatharian is possible, I believe it is. But that's when you say like a small percentage of people can do it, because I've done hundreds of ceremonies. I like done hundreds of one-on-one sessions, like constantly reprogramming my mind. And I don't think most people are willing to do that.
I've got to say that because of my sort of Indian spiritual background, believing that it was the best thing to do, and then going raw vegan and then going fruitarian, I absolutely believed I was going more and more pure. I can't say that there was a doubt until, for me, it didn't work and I ended up in more pain. And then I tried carnivore out of desperation. I thought it was mad. I think most people who go carnivore think it's mad because we're all told it's the most dangerous food that causes heart disease and cancer and whatever. And the amount of cancer reversals I've seen on it blow me away. I mean, my point is that if we could just get to a point where we were taking animals, happy animals, as were needed, like our ancestors did, that would be the ideal situation. And if people can go onto fruit and live on that and become breatharian, honestly, I'm not closed off to it. I will definitely argue with the vegans who eat Pop-Tarts and you know, cereal all day long, because this is not good for the environment. It's not good for animals. It's not good for them. But you know,
just to say though, we're
go.
not promoting like absolutism, you know. I'm not absolutist on fruit, you know. Sometimes I do have other things, right? And I know you're not absolutist on the meat, right? I know we talked about, you know, you indulge sometimes, so it's not like saying you can't ever have something that's not fruit, because I don't think most people have the discipline for that, right? So sometimes I will eat cooked food and I can enjoy it, but it's not for nutritional reasons. It's like for pleasure reasons, right? And I'm okay with that. But because of my healthy lifestyle and the fasting that I do and the way that I take care of myself and the meditations and breathing in all of the light, my body can deal with that. And so I just wanted to say that, because some people think I'm promoting like this absolutist, you have to just be 100% this way. But I don't know many people who can be that, and I'm not that yet.
No, well, to be honest, most people who come to carnivore, I do it out of desperation. And then they learn to like it. I mean, I've never enjoyed my food more, but at the beginning it was like, this is a bit limiting, this is a bit weird. And I just had to go on so long that it was okay. I mean, the things that I added were not really for taste. They were for recreation, so to speak. You know, adding supplementing with chocolate and brandy is not really the healthiest thing. And it got me in a shitload of trouble last year. But hey, you know, we live and learn. I thought I was immortal and invincible and I could do anything, but obviously I couldn't. But, you know, I got a big slap for it. But I think that if we can get to the point where we can understand that the compassion is there in both sides of it and people can make the choice, because a lot of people who are very, very sick, they find it difficult to make that jump to Anita Moorjani status. Do you know what I mean? And so sometimes they need something in the middle. And maybe I'm thinking maybe, you know, to get rid of the plant toxins and whatever, and to maintain the nutrition in the body, if somebody isn't so good at breathing in light and prana and sunlight and whatever, then it's a good stopgap for them. And if they weren't taught that it was tremendously, you know, uncompassionate and bad for the environment, causes cancer and heart disease, which it actually does not. So, you know, when we've blown up the myths, then people can make their choice and try and go on these different paths. I mean, whatever I did to myself, whether it made me ill or whether I just didn't go along with fruitarianism for long enough, who knows? I don't know. But getting that sick was a great blessing. I mean, my book is Arthritis, the Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me, because it took me on so many more levels and even stabilized that awakening, which I was a bit spaced out from for several years, you know?
Yeah, so I had the same thing, right? I had this healing crisis and my family got concerned and thought I was going to die. And, you know, they were thinking of force feeding me meat, you know, because I did go to like skin and bones, but that was a part of my healing journey, right? And I think a lot of people, they get these healing crises, and your arthritis is a really good example. Like you literally said it, you wrote a whole book about it. It was one of the best things that happened, right? Like made you change. And this is one of the things I picked up when we had our offline conversation. Having a bit of brandy and having a bit of chocolate, that's okay, but you took the piss somewhere, right? You overindulged, and your body is just this most incredible vehicle, and its engine warning light comes on and then we ignore it. I call it the whispers, right? First, the cosmos, it gives you a whisper, but you have to be quiet to listen to it. That's where meditation comes in for me, or journaling. You know, you don't have to sit under a waterfall like a monk, but just listen, tune in. Like, why have I got a headache? What do I need to shift? What's not in alignment in my life right now? Like, listen to the subtle things, because if you don't listen to the subtle things, they start to shout. Then if you ignore the shouts, you get a slap. And then if you ignore the slap, you get hit by a spiritual bus. You go, oh, how did I get hit by a bus? You know, I'm so connected. Like, no, you've like ignored all the engine warning lights and now your tire's falling off. I had a client just 2 weeks ago. Real bad shoulder pain, can't sleep, crying at night, like, you know, awful, right? Tuned in. We get to this place called I call it the quantum state. It's called nothingness, the sacred emptiness, the void. It's the place where you can be sensitive to the quantum field, 0 point. We get people to get to that place. Doesn't take very long. When you're in that place, you can communicate with your shoulder. And I just got him to communicate with his shoulder. I said, what's going on? He said, you need to change your mattress. I said, I've been trying to tell you for months to change your mattress, but you've been ignoring me. So now I'm going to get so loud that you can't ignore me anymore. And he went, oh yeah, 6 months ago, I did get this idea to change my mattress, but, you know, I just forgot about it. And, you know, I kept thinking about it, but I just never did it. He's changed his mattress and now his shoulder pain's gone away. But that was like 6 months of suffering because he didn't make time to ask what's not in alignment right now. And this could have helped you with your arthritis. You know, as soon as someone tells me they've got a dis-ease, I'm like, great, there's something not in alignment. Let's figure it out. I'm like curious, you know, like a detective. What is it? It's something. Is it your childhood trauma? Is it the way you're living? Is it your home? Is it toxins?
That's the fun bit, isn't it? You know, if I have a client, it's the diet thing is out of the way quite quickly, and then you can get into the real interesting stuff. And that's wonderful, because that's where everybody's healing journey is different. The different imbalances they have, the different traumas they have, the different ways they're not listening. And yeah, totally with you on that. Beautiful.
You know, we talked about the like 98%, right, or whatever it is, similar. There's this documentary, and I know a lot of people say it's vegan propaganda, right? But there's great bits in the Bible, there's great bits in the Quran, there's great parts in your book, right? You can get wisdom from all the different places. So there's this documentary called What the Health. And they show this thing where if you go on a whole foods diet, they say whole foods plant-based, but what I've found is it's actually just whole foods, just cut out processed foods. And if you do that for 2 weeks, people were literally reversing type 2 diabetes. And I thought, there must be something in the processed foods, like whatever it is, if it's seed oils, which are horrific, by the way, or it's the sugar, or it's the chemicals, or it's like, there's something in there that's obviously causing these dis-ease. So I tried it on one of my family members. He was taking the injections for his diabetes. And in 1 week, he didn't need the injections anymore. 1 week of just switching to a whole foods diet. That was it. And so whether you're a whole foods and you just eat meat, or whether you're whole foods and you just eat plants, like it's taking out the processed food is like a big part of it. And I study something called epigenetics. This is what we teach. We have about DNA activation. So there's a great teacher called Joe Dispenza who broke his back and he healed himself in 12 weeks just using the power of his mind. And now people go to his retreats, and in 5 days they get out of wheelchairs and they can walk again. And it's not just Joe, there's other people who do this. There's someone who teaches something called the release technique. And one of my friends was at the conference, someone who hadn't walked for decades. They come, they teach them about the power of healing, and they get them on a clean diet. It's like cleaning the fish tank, right? Clean the dirty tank, let your body heal itself. And 5 days, that person got out of a wheelchair and started walking again. It's like, what can our body do when we give it a clean environment and we stop filling it with shit? Imagine you got your car engine and you just keep putting shit in it. You know, it's not going to work. And so I think like what you're teaching, the carnivore piece, I think it works if people just go whole foods, like whichever way. I've seen magic happen for all of it. And the epigenetics, like what happens, I don't know how deep you've dived into it. I think you probably dived into it quite a lot, but the sequences that get switched on, because they do animal testing, which again, I don't agree with. I think it's absolutely horrible what they do to animals, but I know there are some uses to it, right? They do these tests on animals and they just change their diet, or they change their environment, or they put something in the air, and the animals either become more or less intelligent, they have more or less intuition, they take longer, or they regenerate faster. And we're not that complicated once we start cleaning up our environment, heal the trauma, figure out the emotional stuff, like whatever's weighing us down. And so yeah, I think we're taught. That's what I teach. That's what I taught at the festival. And I never said to anyone in the festival, because I know Ben was there, Ben, who is your, again, co-author, and he had his meat store selling all his whatever meats, right? And so I knew there were lots of carnivores in the audience, and I knew there were lots of vegans, and it was a mixture, you know. I don't promote you go my way. Just like go whole foods. Just try that. Whatever whole foods means to you, just stop eating processed foods and watch how you transform.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, we see diabetes is really a joke illness, isn't it? I mean, wherever you go, you can seem to fix that. A carnivores just fix diabetes very fast. But you know, going back to what the health and things like that, I think it really does promote this absolute craziness and the moral superiority where vegans get very, very militant and they see all these videos and come up with the wrong solutions and want to just sort of send death threats to people who eat meat. I mean, I've had the most extraordinary things said to me on my YouTube channel. But I have a good friend called Tim Sheaf. You might have heard of him.
Yeah.
And you know, he was in some of those films. I think he was in What the Health, wasn't he? I think so. He was in some of them anyway, some of these vegan type films. And I've watched them all, you know. And one day I was out fishing at night, and it was carp fishing. They get a little bit tortured, but you only catch, like, I like these lakes where you only catch 2 or 3 a year. I don't like hauling them out, and I don't kill
only
them.
only torture 2 or 3.
Yeah. Well, yes. It's sort of after the main one. Some of them are as old as you, and they're really big, and they get beautifully taken care of, apart from the hole in the lip. But they, you know, I got this message through saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, I've got this this company, and I go, all my life's going to collapse. And I thought, well, I don't even know who this is. I go, Timothy Graham. Oh, it's Tim Sheaf, Jesus. And I never met him, but I knew who he was. And he said, your channel is the only carnivore channel that deals with spirituality and the spiritual side of things. And he said, I've been listening to your stuff. I really like you to help me out, because, you know, I can't do it anymore. It's trashed my health. I'm going to have to get rid of my business. I'm going to have to come out like this. All my followers are going to attack me. And so they did when he did come out publicly, you know, and I spoke to him a lot. And, you know, he's been to my house and run around on top of the garage and whatever. I've even got a little video of my son, my youngest son. He was like 4 at the time, and Tim was on top of the garage, and you can see Peter, and he goes, you hear this thing, Tim Sheaf, out the top window, and Tim goes, yes, Peter, and he goes, what the fuck are you doing up there? And I thought, oh no, that's my boy. I've taught him some terrible stuff. But he was sweet, and Tim's talked to me about it a lot, and you know, he's not completely carnivore now, but he did go for a while, and it really fixed his health, and he got rid of his whole life, you know, really to get off the plant-based thing that ruined his health. And I think you know, I mean, he was an athlete and whatever, and a lot of those athletes in those films, if you look at the history of them after that film, they do have, a lot of them have crashes. I remember Sean Baker did a podcast about all the different times that their performance is tanking, their ligaments are snapping, stuff like that. And I do see that a lot. I see a big honeymoon period when you go to the Whole Foods thing, but then one set of plant toxins goes down, like all the cereals and grains and seed oils and stuff like that. And then you go to the Whole Foods. I feel wonderful. I think the honeymoon period is sometimes keeps people on it for too long, and then they get the different toxins come up, you know, and then they run into trouble. I mean, it happened with me, you know, and kidney stones and all that kind of thing. But what do you say to that, when the huge amount of vegan failures, you know, on YouTube, where they get very, very sick?
Yeah. It's a complex issue, isn't it, Phil? I it's very easy for me. I know whatever I put in my subconscious mind becomes my belief system. So as soon as I became vegan, I just started searching vegan bodybuilders, vegan, you know, athletes, and I filled my timeline with all of those on my Instagram and everything. I did the same when I became fruitarian. It wasn't by choice. It was just I couldn't eat vegetables anymore. They didn't feel good in my body. Like, I can't eat meat. It doesn't feel good in my body. It's like, it's not food for me. And so I became fruitarian. I just found all these fruitarian bodybuilders. You can just go search it. You can find them 20 years, 30 years, you know, strong, healthy, thriving, like Dr. Amin Ra, right? It's like, you can't deny that it's possible. Now, the problem is...
Do you think Amin Ra is definitely not taking steroids? Because a lot of people have said that he is. But then again, a lot of people have said that Sean Baker is, and I know he isn't. So what do you think?
A lot of people try and find any way to tarnish someone who's doing a good thing, right? Whatever that thing is. I've been called a shill. I'm writing a book at the moment, which is Gonna basically teach how to fix the whole world. So really inspired by the Red Pill Revolution, you know, and I'm speaking to Graham about doing some stuff, and maybe you'll be involved in it. Who knows? About how can we fix the food industry? How can we fix the education system? How can we fix the healthcare system? Like problem, solution, what are the suggested steps? And so when that comes out, basically what I'm going to be teaching, people are going to question, you know, challenge me. They already are. I'm saying you don't need pharmaceuticals, right? So most of the people I know, Daz included, right? God, I've been with Daz. I was a backing singer on his We Are the 99%, you know, and like he's telling me, do you know what people are saying about me behind my back, and like what the media are trying to make out? It's nuts, right? Reputation is such a subtle thing, isn't it? So I'm really conscious of what's in the media. But here's the thing, Phil. It's much more multifaceted, isn't it, than just eating plants or eating animals? Because you can eat meat that is toxic, mRNA jabbed, had all the antibiotics, raised in that horrible, you know, enclosures or in a battery cage, you know, like a chicken, right? And it's you're just eating suffering. Or meat can be, you know, wild caught game or wild caught salmon, or you know, there's different ways to play it. A lot of the people who go into the vegan world, they're not eating organic, right? They're eating these things full of pesticides that are GMO modified, told kale and broccoli and cauliflower are good for them. All these traps, right? There's so many traps in it. And this is what we have to watch out for. Like you have a superfood salad, right? With kale and broccoli and pumpkin seeds and whatever, right? Granola and all this different stuff. And it's all full of these anti-nutrients, and it just fucks you up.
You're making my kidneys hurt right now, just thinking.
Yeah. Just fucks you up, right? Does
Right.
absolutely. Like food combining is such an important thing that we're not taught in school. So I actually promote mono meals. Like that's what my teachers do. They do mono fruit meals. You just eat one thing at a time. That way the nutrients don't contradict each other, because you can eat one vegetable and you eat another vegetable and just cancel each other out. It's pointless, and no one really talks about food combining because it's not a thing. So
yeah, I've been into
I think a lot
the meals. I mean, there's what's his name? Doug Graham is all into that, the 80-10-10 thing, and I followed that, and I've still got his book somewhere. He doesn't look well to me, and he doesn't seem to be being very coherent though these days after years on it. What do you think about that?
Most people don't know how to deal with trauma, Phil. They just don't. It's not just in your lifetime, it's in your DNA. Your DNA is a library of magical wisdom. When I do sessions with clients, when Michael Newton does sessions with clients, it can go back generations, you know, and this stuff that we're the system busters, right? We're literally changing our whole ancestral lines, and it's deep, deep work. So I have roughly every week, like 2 or 3 sessions done on myself. Either some kind of hypnotherapy, quantum regression, some kind of energy massage, some kind of shamanic thing. I did a fire ceremony last night. We get around the fire and we connect and we bring in the energies that we want, and we let go of the things that we don't, and we just heal, you know. And I'm always in these kind of spaces. 2 weeks ago, I did 4 ceremonies in 5 days. It was wild, you know, but that was just not by choice. 2 of them were by choice. And then I spoke at this festival where I was invited to do 2 others. And there's a lot of things for us to clear in the collective, not just in our own being. And this is probably the deepest part I would love to bring to the conversation. If your listeners are open to hearing what my multidimensional world, which if a psychologist analyzes this tape, they will absolutely tell you I am paranoid schizophrenic. I completely believe the government are out to get us, that they're poisoning the water. Completely, like, get my tinfoil hat. I'm all about it. We had a party. I don't know if you were there. Daz was there. We had a tinfoil hat competition. We all made our best tinfoil hats, you know, and really owned that.
That's where I first met Daz, and that's where I said, let's do the band.
Right, fantastic. So
Ross and Ricky's house, right?
Yes, exactly. And so and the schizophrenic part, yeah, I absolutely talk to trees and to plants and to animals. And I just did a client session just before this, literally an hour before this show. Her cat's really distressed. We connected to the cat. We asked it what's wrong. It told us it's being bullied by another cat and it needs her to intervene. And we connected to the other cat, and that cat said it's scared and it's just moved into its new house and it just wants love, right? And we're like playing in these realms that most people don't play in. But here's the piece. There are other planets other than Earth that exist in what I call unity consciousness. It's oneness consciousness. I know you talk about this in your Buddha at the gas pump interview as well, which, you know, everyone go listen to it. It's brilliant. It's on the Red Pill website. This book, you know, you can go travel to it, Easy Journey to Other Planets, Michael Newton. I can go, I have seen myself on these other planets where it is kind of like the Avatar movie, right? They look different to us, they feel different. You go there in the hypnotic state, it's not made up, it's real, my perception. On those planets, a lot of them, they don't eat. They're beings made of light. They have transcended the need for food. Like this path that we're on, this going from the 3D to the 5D to the 7D to whatever you believe in, this isn't a new thing. We're not the first ones who've done this, right? And because I live in the quantum realm, I can go and connect. I have guides who come to me from these other planets and they tell me what's possible. So here's the thing. If you can connect into your heart, heal your trauma, let go of the muscle that was made from those animals that is no longer high vibrational, right? And causes disease. If you can become a being of light and you can nourish yourself that way, isn't that optimal? This is what these other beings on other planets do. And this is where the Earth is moving to. Literally, what my teacher teaches, which, you know, resonates for me, is we're moving from being carbon-based beings to being more crystalline beings. And this is why so many more people are able to be psychic now. We're able, because our pineal glands are becoming different, you know, our whole bodies are becoming different. And I believe really quickly we're going to get to a point of like ascension as a collective where we can only need to eat for pleasure if we want to. And I think that'll be a really beautiful time where, you know, you really would have to choose to kill an animal then. At the moment, you believe you need to kill an animal, which is, you know, where you are. And there's no point me telling you anything, right? There's no combination of words I can say right now that will get you to think differently about that, which is cool. And it's similar for me with fruit. Like there's no combination of words you could say that would get me to kill a beautiful little sheep, right? I just wouldn't. And when we can collectively move into this 5D realm or whatever name you want to call it, unity consciousness, we will take care of our planet, Phil, because the planet's a part of you. I believe you're a part of me. You're a part of the oneness. It's just one thing and we're all a part of it. And the animals are a part of me and the trees are a part of me. So I don't want to harm them unnecessarily. I would never go and pollute a river. You know, I would never go and hurt a kid on purpose anyway, you know, and I think a lot more people are becoming compassionate to this. And you mentioned something, which was, you called this a weakness. I believe you said something like vegans and raw vegans, they become like snowflakes, you know, and we're so easily offended. And that was an interesting thing because you do challenge me and I like that about you and I welcome it. I was like, am I too sensitive? Like, is that a bad thing? But my sensitivity helps me to heal all these clients. My sensitivity allows me to help them get to their childhood trauma and reprogram it, to connect to this cat. And now I've just helped this cat, right? It was their owner, their parent who came to like for the healing, but it's ended up the cat who now had hypothyroidism or something, and now we can heal the cat, you know? I think the more sensitive I am, the better. And so I want to become more sensitive. I literally pay thousands of pounds for people to make me more sensitive, to learn how to develop these powers, you know, and these gifts. And I was told as a kid I was too sensitive. That was an insult. And I hope for myself and for my daughter, I've got a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old. I hope if they ever see someone slitting an animal's throat, like they would stop them. Same as if you saw someone trying to slit a kid's throat, I hope you would stop them. Or a dog. Like most people would go batshit crazy if someone slit a dog's throat in the middle of the street. But it's coming up to Bakr Eid now. It's my wife's from Pakistan, so I'm married into a Muslim family. And Bakr Eid is the Eid of the goat. And in Pakistan, my wife said when she's a kid, they all bring the animals into the street and they all just slit their throats the halal way. And the streets are like red with blood. And that's like deep in her trauma, you know, this disrespect we have for our animal friends. And so, yeah, brother, if you ever did get hungry enough to like have to kill an animal in front of me, that would be really challenging. And I've never had to be that yet. I've never had to watch someone do that. I think I can tolerate it. If my hunter friends want to go and hunt, but if they did that in front of me, I don't think I could be their friend anymore. But if they liked eating children, I couldn't tolerate that, even if they did that out of my sight, which some people on the planet do. That's not like a crazy thing. There are cannibals and people do eat children, and that's like a part of this world. So I have found a way to be at peace with people eating animals, but it did used to hurt me a lot, even if I saw a steak on a plate. And I used to get a megaphone, Phil, and I used to go around the streets, and I literally had hundreds of people behind me in a parade, and I was shouting, we need to free every being from every cage. And if we cage animals, then we can't complain when they cage people. And I was like, literally on a megaphone through the streets of London. And then I found out about human trafficking, and I did the same thing. I was going through the streets of Manchester, save our children, everyone's a pedo, like the BBC and all this stuff, and that was I was angry, and I had to like express it somehow. But it's a phase, and it created movement, it did, but it's not how I want to live my life. I want to be at peace. I want to be able to sit with you while you're eating your food that you believe is nourishing. And I want to be able to like be civil. Like if I went to a tribe, like you said, your friend who went to the tribe, I can't be disgusted at their way of life, because that's their way of life. And if I am disgusted at them, I'm disgusted at the unity consciousness, because that's what is. And that's just insanity, isn't it?
Yeah, and great point. What I've loved about this is that, I don't even see it as opposite sides of the spectrum. We're all just human beings. We're all connected on that quantum level. And we've been able to have a chilled out discussion here. And I think this is what people need to learn, that we're all really on the same side. And we need to stop being divided by these issues. And if you want to eat just fruit, that's absolutely fine by me. I think I shall watch your progress with great interest if you're one of the people who get towards breatharianism and you manage to do it. All bloody respect for me, mate. It will be if you manage to do that, because that's great, because I do believe it's possible. There's so much more we could get into, but we've been going about an hour and a half now, and just thank you for your chilled out nature, and thank you for the conversation. And next time I see you, I'm sure we'll have a good hug and just as we had before. And thank you, man. You're very open, and you brought up some absolutely beautiful points about all the spirituality and the work that you do, and the connection and the emotional balancing and stuff. People really need to listen to this. People really need to listen to this, particularly in the carnivore world, who think it's all about meat, and it isn't all about meat, and it isn't all about fruit. It's all about everything. And thank you for bringing that up, and some absolutely wonderful points you made in this. Thank you.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure, Phil. And yeah, welcome more discussions. And I also welcome your wisdom, because I want to thrive, right? And what you told me about anti-nutrients, brilliant. I knew that there was something, but you told me the science behind it, right? And like, about deuterium and these different things, and you're telling me that, and now I go and research it. I'm like, okay, like I'll find a way. There's a way for everything, right? And you tell me the thing that's the issue, and I'll find the way, right? We're very creative humans when we want to be, and it's one of the most beautiful things, isn't it? That's happened since the lockdown and all of that stuff. We've as a species, we've had to find a different way to be, and I really look forward to the next 3 years. If like my teacher says, by 2026 we will all be these crystalline spiritual light beings, then amazing. If it takes a couple of extra years, I'm all right with that too. And having kids is the big one, isn't it, Phil? I know you know about it, right? And it's like, what kind of world do I want my kids to grow up in? My daughter's 2 now. If I don't be brave enough to come and challenge these systems, like our kids have had no jabs, right? And there's no one. I was like a ninja when they were born, because they jab them as soon as they're born, right? Like, oh yeah, they're ready. I used to be a cage fighter. I've got like my martial arts skills, so I've got my warrior mode I can tap into when I need to. And I was ready. For the kids, it motivates people, and when they come after the kids, that's a big thing. And they're doing that, and so I encourage all the beautiful warriors, whatever tribe you're from, this division thing that we've got, pitting vegans against carnivores, right? It's like, there will be some event that brings all the tribes together where our petty differences, they don't matter, and we'll all become aligned. And they believe a lot of people believe there's going to be this fake alien invasion or something, right? That's going to happen.
Yeah, soon. I was thinking that when you said it. Yeah, probably. I'm looking forward to that one. Those projections in the sky, that'll be hilarious, won't it?
We'll see if that's the thing that makes us put our differences aside, Phil. when I lived in London, it's a multicultural, beautiful place. You meet people from every color, every background, every country who speak every language, and you can meet them. And even if you don't speak the same language, you can, send love, you can share a hug, you can, hold their hand, you can have a beautiful moment. And I think this is way, way deeper than what we do eat. And honestly, if I need everyone to agree to my way of thinking, I'm just going to create suffering for myself my whole life. It's not a way to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got into periods of my life like that, and it does create tremendous suffering. I've had to tap that out a bunch of times, Yeah.
Everyone has to agree with me on every single thing.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. Vive la différence. Luke, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. And everybody have a look below, and I'm going to put Luke's all of Luke's bio and his links up, and so go check him out. And if you make it to any of the freedom festivals, come say hello to both of us, because here's a carnivore and a fruitarian at peace. See you soon, man.
Take care. Thanks, Phil.
Son of a lighthouse keeper, through cons and a wishing well.